Number 1. I'm posting this story online because I want it to be a warning to other women to be cautious at college parties, so this horrible act does not happen to you. I was a senior in high school at the time, and I'd been dating a college freshman in the next town over for about 3 months. Things were going well, and he seemed like a nice guy that I could trust. So when he asked me if I wanted to attend a private frat party with him, I said yes. The night started out great. They had good music and great beer. There were not many other girls there, but that did not bother me as I was dancing with my boyfriend and we were having a good time. So a few hours in, at probably 12, he started to bring me more drinks. Up until that point, I only had 2 beers, and I did not really want to drink anymore. He told me to have just one more as he handed me another beer. After I finished the beer, he asked if I wanted to have sex. I was not a virgin, but we had not had sex yet, and I wasn't ready to. So I told him not tonight, and he was cool with it and said okay. And we continued to dance. After a while, I started to feel really drunk, and I didn't know why because 3 beers was not that much. After this, my memory started to rapidly fade, but I do remember being surrounded by his frat brothers before everything went black. I woke up on one of the couches in the common areas at around 10 a.m. the next morning, and my boyfriend was not around. I had a strong headache, and I still did not feel normal. I took out my phone to call my boyfriend, but before I did, I saw that there was a new text message. It was my boyfriend. He sent a message at 4 a.m. and it said, "I had fun last night, but I think that we should see other people." And that was it. I was confused and tried to call him, but he did not pick up. So I went to look for him and I couldn't find him. And then the frat boys told me that I had to leave as they were about to have a meeting. So I left. After then, my boyfriend wouldn't return any of my calls or see me, and he even unfriended me on MySpace. It was like he fell off the face of the earth, and I never heard from him again. I always wondered what happened to make him completely blow me off like that, and I thought that I would never find out. But fast forward a few years, and one of my friends came over and told me that she needed to show me something. She went on my computer and pulled up a porn site and entered in my first name in the search engine, and there was a video of me. She opened it, and I found out why my ex had never spoken to me again. In the video, I was gangbanged by him and 4 of his frat brothers from behind. It looks like it was part of some frat initiation or something. Now I know there's no way that I would have agreed to being gangbanged, so I must have been roofied. And the worst part was that someone even posted it online. So I called the website and they took down the video. But that will never take away what those college boys did to me. So girls, never drink an open drink unless you really know the person. Otherwise, who knows what will happen. Number 2. This happened about 10 years ago when I was a senior in college. My husband, who's now my ex, and I lived in a decent-sized college town off campus. Our apartment complex was a bit shabby as far as the interior went, but it was located in the middle of a nice middle-class neighborhood, which added to a sense of security. It was a tiny 1-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor, and the bedroom itself was quite small. Since we were both working and going to school full-time, we rarely had people over. Any free time we had was spent on schoolwork or gaming, so we decided to mix things up a bit. So we put our bed in the living room and turned our bedroom into a gaming/work den. Wild and crazy. All that to say, our bed ended up being pretty close to the front door, which normally wasn't a problem since our complex was far enough away from campus not to be party central. Our apartment was a corner unit, so you had to go up the stairs, turn left, and keep walking to the end of the walkway to reach our door. To the right, on the opposite corner, lived our neighbor, a middle-aged Latino man that loved to clean his shotgun while sitting in the doorway, drunk, swinging back and forth from English to Spanish while he told us about the life lessons he learned during a prison stint in Mexico. Anyways, one Sunday we were off work taking advantage of sleeping in, as overworked college kids often do. All of a sudden we were awoken from a deep sleep by a loud thump as our door practically rattled off its hinges. My ex leaps out of bed, yelling incoherently, more pissed that we had been woken up than freaked out by whatever caused the noise. I, on the other hand, am instantly alert and immediately ask him to look out the peephole and figure out what is going on. He covers the few feet to the door in a matter of seconds, yelling the whole time about it being the weekend and the assholes needing to keep it down. What he saw through the peephole silenced him immediately, and his fist clenched instantly. He wheeled around wildly looking for something menacing to grab. At this point, I'm shaking in the bed, sheets pulled to my chin like they're bulletproof, utterly terrified. He grabs the closest thing resembling a weapon that he could find, which is a ridiculously large and heavy metal flashlight, unbolts the door, and swings it open in one swift move, and that's when I see it. Someone is running full speed down the walkway toward our door, with his shoulder braced to bust that lousy piece of wood right open. Apparently, this was the second guy's attempt, and he was doing it like he meant it this time. I'm not sure if it was me screaming, my ex yelling, brandishing his, quote, weapon, or the fact that our neighbor was also standing in his doorway, brandishing an actual weapon, his beloved shotgun. But the next thing we know, the guy barely breaks stride, and instead of barreling toward our door like he was planning, he banks left and launches himself down the stairs into the parking lot and begins sprinting toward the street. Now my ex, oblivious to the fact that he's barefoot in his boxers, starts to sprint after him, but loses him in the neighborhood next to the complex. Thinking back on it now, the guy had some major cojones or was on some serious drugs to make that much noise trying to break in a second-floor apartment in broad daylight on the weekend, especially when there were actual houses all around us that probably had better loot than some rundown college couple's apartment. Needless to say, we added an arsenal of weaponry around us from next to the front door and developed new respect for our quick-draw neighbor. I hate to think what would have happened if our bed was actually in the bedroom and my ex's interference had been impeded with the extra ground needed to cover. So ballsy burglar, I'm glad we didn't meet. Number 3. I want to start this by saying that I had recently bought a used 2003 BMW M5, and I couldn't be happier with it. I've been saving up for it for many years, which my girlfriend thought was stupid at the time, but I bought it anyway because I love the car. Anyways, this story takes place in 2012 in the fall. My girlfriend and I planned to spend the weekend in a tiny bed and breakfast a few hours away from where we lived. So I took the BMW and we left early in the morning out to our destination so that we could go hiking for a few hours before we checked into the bed and breakfast. It was about 5 in the morning when we were driving in a very rural area when all of a sudden it sounded like I was driving on gravel and my tire pressure light went on. I found this to be very odd, so I pulled over on the side of the road and got my flashlight out and got out of the car to investigate. The area that we were in was rural farmland, and my car was about 200 feet away from a large patch of trees on the other side of the road. It was completely dark outside, and I could only see with my flashlight. As soon as I looked at my car from the outside, I could see that there were several nails in the driver's side front and rear tires. I went around to the passenger side and saw both of those tires also had nails in them. So I started walking back down the road the way that I had driven and saw what looked like thousands of nails completely across the road and probably 20 feet long. This was no accident. These nails were obviously put here, so I started to look around the area with the flashlight to see if anyone was hiding, and I saw 4 men come out of the direction of the patch of trees, smiling and laughing. Then one of them yelled, "We got your ass now!" At this point, they were about 100 feet away, and so I ran back to my car and booked it out of there. As I was pulling away, I looked in the rearview mirror, and the faces of the men were priceless. I guess they never expected a potential victim to have run-flat tires. So I called the cops to tell them what happened, and so they could clean up the road and this would not happen to anyone else. Later they called me back and told me that they did not find the men, but it appeared that no one else fell victim into their trap. After the event, I drove to a dealership and they installed new run-flat tires on my car, and luckily I had no rim damage. My girlfriend and I ended up enjoying our bed and breakfast, and she never gave me any more grief about my expensive car, because it might have saved our lives. Number 4. Okay, so this happened to me about 7 years ago when I had just started high school. The school I was at was about a 10-minute walk from my little brother's school, so every day I would walk up there to meet him. It was a pretty safe walk along a main road with lots of sunlight and cars, but not many people most of the time. Occasionally you would get some school children or runners, or maybe even some old people walking to their apartments, and of course there were people waiting at the bus stop. The bus stop was halfway between my school and my brother's, and there were only ever 2 people at a time waiting there. One afternoon I was walking up the street to meet my brother, but I had left my headphones at home that day, so I couldn't listen to music while walking, which is something that I normally did. So I was just walking and enjoying the sun and the pretty plants and gardens. When I had reached the bus stop, I noticed an old man sitting on the bench waiting for a bus. I passed him and didn't think much of it because he seemed harmless. I'd say this guy was between 60 and 65 years old. pretty short and not very fit. As soon as I walked past him, I heard him get up. I didn't see a bus coming. Maybe he was checking the timetable, but no, of course not. I turned my head to check, and this guy was like 5 steps right behind me with his eyes stuck on me. I started to speed walk, but then I heard him start to speed up too. I turned to look behind me, and sure enough, he was speed walking as well. I was scared. He hadn't even taken his eyes off me now, and whenever I was looking back, he was giving me this creepy, devilish grin. There was no one else around, and I was about 200 meters from my brother's school. I decided to bolt for it. I looked behind me, and the old guy was running. I couldn't believe it. He was faster than I expected, too. Every time I looked back, he was staring at me, smiling. I was almost in tears, and I was so scared that I wasn't going to make it. Now, I know you might think that a young teenage girl could outrun a man in his 60s, but with a school bag weighing about 20 kilograms and a messed up knee from gymnastics, I was about as equipped to run as he was. By this point, I could see my brother's school and some kids leaving. I was kind of relieved, and I thought the old man would ease up and notice that other people were around. But no. What does this guy do? He starts yelling at the people saying, "My granddaughter! She's running away from me! Get her! She's in trouble!" All while giving me this evil grin. Then I stop, because I've come to a massive road and I don't want to get hit by a car. This guy gets close enough to grab my bag and tell me to stop being a little cunt, and that he was going to win and take me away. I screamed and ran for my life, not caring about the cars. I got into my brother's school and looked back to see the guy jogging towards me. I ran to the main building and told the receptionist what had happened. She went to take a look outside and pointed to a man waiting outside the school gate, moving his head as if he was trying to spot someone. I told her that it was him, and she told me to wait for a while she called the police. The man walked away after 10 minutes, but the police did catch him and found out that he'd been offering candy to kids from my brother's school and trying to get them to come home with him in the afternoons. I walked on the other side of the road from then on, avoiding the bus stop and anyone I passed. So, crazy old bus stop man, let's not meet. Number 5. I'm not sure if this is the right sub to post this in, but I had a pretty disturbing experience that I'd like to share. When I was 13, almost 14, I was a pretty messed up kid. I smoked, drank, stayed out late, caused trouble around the neighborhood, etc. I had a friend who was 12 named Amanda who did the same bad shit that I did. Anyways, I lived in an apartment building that was bought by a new management, and with that came a new team of security guards. The kids in the neighborhood at the time all played and hung out together. Our ages ranged from 12 to 16. And one particular security guard became a bit too friendly with us. I never found out his real name, but his nickname was Security Bob. I have no idea why. I didn't realize just how creepy he was until now. He used to give us cigarettes and talk to us like we were adults. He also never cared if we drank. We thought he was cool. We felt like he was one of the kids, I suppose. One particular night, my friend Amanda and I were drunk and decided to draw shit on the side of the building. Being stupid, we wrote our own names. So obviously Security Bob tracked us down. But instead of having our parents or police called, he simply told us that if we cleaned it off, we wouldn't be in trouble. He said that he had the cleaning supplies in his office and led us there. There was only one man in the office when we got there, and Security Bob seemed to give him all sorts of signals. So he followed us into the back room. He told us to sit down, which was odd, because I thought we were just getting cleaning supplies. He started off by saying he had a proposition for us. He had a film company or something like that, and he wanted to film us. Apparently, the other security guard was the cameraman. We asked him what he wanted us to do, and he told us stripping or sex. Basically, the more we do, the more money we get. Immediately I said, "That is illegal," to which he replied, "No, not in Sweden. That's where the tapes go. No one will ever see them. We ship them off." I really didn't believe this. My friend jokingly said something like, "How much money do I get if I only take off one sock?" I realized that she was stalling, because later she had texted her sister to come pick us up ASAP. My sister showed up a couple minutes later and we rushed out the door. The last thing Security Bob said to us was, "Think about it," and then he would be in contact. Or maybe he said to contact him, or vice versa, I don't know. Either way, I stopped hanging out in my neighborhood for a while. I was too afraid to tell my mother, because she was extremely abusive and I was afraid she would say I was lying or try to blame me. A month later, the security was gone. No idea where they went, never asked. So Security Bob, let's never meet again. What's going on, guys? It's Super 320 Man. I want to thank you for watching my video and helping support my channel. I also wanted to say that I found a couple websites this weekend that are really awesome to give me some extra content as far as scary stories go. I don't think anybody else on YouTube has found them yet, but they're true stories and they're a little bit different. So I'm hoping to use some of those sources on my new videos, and hope you'll enjoy them. Until next time, sleep lightly.